For today, in the name of freedom, we take the battle to them.
Ladies and gentlemen, Thunderbolts has finally released, and it is time to talk spoilers on this movie. So I'm saying this now, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. The movie's been out for like 2-3 days now, and I'm quite enjoying what I've been doing with these recent reviews, is not doing them immediately after I watch the movie. Doing it a couple days later, so I'm allowed to gather my thoughts. And honestly, I think this is way better. Just to give you my overall thoughts on this movie, I really enjoyed it. I think that this is the same level as the old MCU, and I know people say that a lot, and people are like, oh, I think we're getting too much ahead of ourselves. But guys, look, the old MCU was good, but let's not pretend like it was the most perfect thing in the world, like it's absolute god tier and untouchable. No, I think this is genuinely, a great film that would have fit with the, like phase 2, hell, even some of phase 3. I think that this was a really, really solid movie, not just because it was entertaining, but also because of the themes and things that they they decide to talk about here. But let's just start off with the beginning of the movie, because this time I decided to be formal and I decided to take down notes of things to talk about this time. Starting off with the opening, it is immediately having some very dark implications, because it opens with Yelena basically giving a monologue of like, sometimes you just feel like you're not really worth anything, like you have no purpose and things like that. Obviously, very depressing things. And then she jumps off a building. Like, holy shit. Obviously, I don't know if it was meant to be, but it probably meant to be like that, let's be honest. Because, of course, a big thing that this movie is tackling is mental health, self-worth, and I just thought that everything to do with that was fantastic with this movie. Because every time we had things like that, it wasn't cut off by some stupid joke. The things that, they discuss here that are serious are left serious. And that's one that immediately hits you with that, with the opening scene of Yelena saying that she, doesn't feel fulfilled and things like that, and she jumps off a building, which I still find it's so awesome that Florence Pugh decided to do that herself, because they were just going to use a stunt double, but she was like, no, 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 I'm doing this. Like, second tallest building in the world, and she just jumped off of it. That is fucking badass, dude. That's awesome. I love her. But another thing that they immediately bring up with that opening scene is void. They immediately say the word void. Of course, foreshadowing what's going to happen later. But I just love that, because by the time this movie is done with its opening sequence, you already had two things mentioned, well, referencing the void, because you have the Marvel intro, which is different. I would like to say the animation is different. And I don't know if they're going to be doing this every time. I think now the old Marvel logo is done. I think it's done and dusted. I don't think we're going to be getting it back, because with Captain America Brave New World, they didn't even bother with an intro. They just had Marvel and then Studios, like in black and white, very lazy. But, it was simple, so I respect it for style. This movie, different animation, and they also changed the images in there to be comic panels showing Sentry. And then, of course, it gets taken over by the darkness, which is Void. And I just thought that was awesome. Like, just having that and Yelena mentioning Void in the opening sequence, fan-freaking-tastic, dude. But yeah, Yelena has a mission here, given to her by Val. She she saves a hamster, which I think is freaking, that was hilarious. I love that. I love Yelena. I love her so much. And then just after this, she goes to see her dad. Red Guardian, of course, he's just comic relief, but he's so good. David Harbour is so good at the line deliveries, and I'm honestly pretty happy that I watched Black Widow, because I only watched it this year. So I thought the movie was okay. I wouldn't say that it's underrated. But I will say that it gets a bit too much hate. But yeah, Yelena and Red Guardian were easily the best parts of that movie, and their dynamic in this movie is fantastic. I love this scene where you know Alexei is clearly lying to her when he's like, "Oh yeah, so filled." Like it's so good, and of course you get the serious things where he brings up her sister and things like that. And I find it interesting that they never mention that Nat was her sister, because for people going in blind, they just keep mentioning her sister and they never really mention who it is. But I mean, I feel like if you just watch Black Widow, then you're fine, because like if you don't understand something because you didn't watch a show, I can't blame you, because a show is far more painful to sit through than a movie. But watching Black Widow, fair enough. And that's where I would say, as far as homework goes for this movie, it's not absolutely necessary, but Black Widow is the most important movie here for you to watch, because Yelena is the main character, and two other characters do come from that movie. And you can at least get a decent dynamic of their backstory, but it's not absolutely necessary. The only one that I do feel is strange that people haven't, that people just decide to ignore, is Falcon of the Winter Soldier. They just go, oh yeah, no, it's fine, because John Walker is the only character here who was introduced in a Disney Plus show. And again, only watch Falcon and Winter Soldier this year. So I find it strange that people go, oh yeah, no, you don't have to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But they don't, like, that's not something that they can just throw away, like give in a throwaway line, because they mention, oh yeah, I was Captain America for like 2 minutes, things like that. But like, you don't understand the impact of that if you didn't watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because you see that happen in real time. That yes, John Walker is a douche, but he wants to do the right thing. And then of course, his entire name, his entire legacy, and his future has all been tainted by one lapse of judgment, and obviously killing a quote unquote innocent man. But yeah, as far as homework goes, really Black Widow is the main thing you need to watch, because for Ant-Man and the Wasp, as much as I love Ghost, I wouldn't say it's like absolutely necessary, but it's fine. And one thing I liked about this movie is that you get into the main plot of the film very quickly. It doesn't waste time. This isn't really the type of movie where it's like, oh my god, this movie would have been better if it was like 10 minutes longer, or if it was 15 minutes shorter. This movie, I think, had a nice, perfect runtime. I think it was fantastic. And basically what gets the ball rolling here is Val being like, okay, yeah, because Yelena wants to be sort of more public. She's like, yeah, you can be more public. Just do one more mission for me. And of course, we see Ghost entering this compound. Then Yelena goes after her. And then John Walker shows up and starts shooting her. And you get such funny lines here, where she's like, you're not even my target. And he's like, well, you're mine. And then he just starts throwing her around. And this is where like the chain of things just keeps happening, because she was sent there to kill Ghost. John was sent there to kill her. And then Taskmaster shows up and she looks at Yelena and says, you're not even my target. Or like, I'm not here for you, and then, who was the next person? Actually, no, that was it. And then, for God's sake, Taskmaster gets killed. I think I speak for most people when I say that we thought she was going to last a bit longer, because we knew that, we were like, okay, Sentry is obviously going to kill her to show stakes, or like Void's going to kill her to show stakes, yada yada yada. No, she had like a minute of screen time, one line. I cannot believe they actually got the actress back, and then she's killed. Like, what the fuck, guys? What the hell? And the funny part is, I went to go see this movie with two of my friends, one of which showed up when this was happening. I looked away for 1 second, I heard a gunshot, and then I just look at the screen and I see Taskmaster on the floor, blood coming out of her head, and then Ghost holding a gun. And I was like, what the fuck? This was brilliant. Honestly, I don't think anyone expected Taskmaster to be killed that quickly. We knew she was gonna die. But come on, seriously? You put her on all the marketing. You even CGI'd her in, or like you put a different cut of the Watchtower scene in the first trailer showing Taskmaster, and she lasted 20 seconds. I genuinely could not believe that. And then you get such a you get such a brilliant scene of Ghost and John Walker. Well, Ghost is like raiding Taskmaster's body and taking stuff, and John is like, "Oh, come on, have a bit of respect." Oh, and then he takes the gun and he's like, "Well, I need it." That was brilliant. I absolutely loved that. That scene was so good. That was some good action, but I also liked how they actually did it because I thought that Val would have just sent them all, like given them all the same mission. And then because they all sort of have this ego, they would, try and kill each other and do it and do the mission themselves. I didn't expect her to actually make one kill the other. But then, she probably gave Ghost a different task. She was like, okay, you got to be here to do something else because Ghost was the first one there. But yeah, I just think that was so funny how it all just led to Ghost killing Taskmaster. And I think it makes sense because Ghost is like the one person who has killed a lot of people and hasn't visibly regretted it on screen yet. Because of course from Ant-Man and the Wasp, we know she had a very tragic backstory, but Yelena has made it very clear she hated what she had to do. John, of course, I mean, we don't really need to speak about that anymore. And then Ghost hasn't really had the chance to sort of have that moment of clarity. So I'm glad that she was a main player in this movie. So yeah, man, this is just awesome. But yeah, they are in this room for a surprising amount of time. And I did not mind it at all because this is where we meet Bob. And dude, everything they were saying with Bob I thought was fantastic. Lewis Pullman had to play 3 characters in this movie. That is difficult. And I think Bob was easily my favorite just because of all the dialogue they gave him. As I said, this movie tackles a lot of mental health, self-worth, things like that. And you just you have him say things like, because, they know they're going to be incinerated. And he's like, I think you should just leave me here. I think it'll be better for everyone if I just stay behind. And it's, oh my God, that's something that a lot of people who have those kind of thoughts say, like, oh, I think everyone will just be better off if I off myself. But you got Yelena reassuring him and things like that. And I just absolutely loved that. This movie was very emotional. It was very serious with things that it was tackling. And that's what was nice. It had an idea in mind. It knew, okay, we're going to be commenting on things like this. And they let that be the movie. They didn't just turn it into a joke. That's something Thor Love and Thunder, I've made very clear, is my least favorite MCU movie. I hate that film beyond belief because you have a god butcher who has kidnapped children, and you have one of the main characters who has cancer, and the movie is treated like a kid's cartoon. It is absolutely horrendous. Here, they are tackling real problems. Yeah, I'm not saying cancer isn't a real problem. I'm just I'm elaborating on this. They're dealing with something which a lot of people suffer with, and I think that they did a fantastic job with it. But of course, they do get out of this room in an absolutely hilarious way. At this point, it's like 4 of them, right? It's Ghost, Yelena, Bob, and John, and they have their backs against each other, and they're trying to walk up this tower, and just listening to them all like yap over each other is freaking hilarious. It is absolutely brilliant. And before I carry on talking about that, I just need some sort of clarification because I don't remember this from Falcon and Winter Soldier, so I'm not going to say it was an issue, but I'm just going to chalk it up to me not remembering. Did John get like a different version of the super soldier serum? Because he was able to jump so high. And we've seen Cap jump. He can jump, but it's never been like a Hulk jump. Like that was almost a Hulk jump what John did. He nearly jumped to the top. That is absolutely insane. But yeah, I just loved everything about the scene. I loved how when they when they were walking up, how it did kind of look like the Asterix. And I loved the whole thing about freaking Bob sneezing, where he's like, cucumber, cucumber, it helps me calm down. And then as he's about to sneeze, everyone else is like, cucumber, cucumber. It was absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, you have John being the moronic fool that he is, who tries jumping up. And I loved this parallel with Black Widow's death. Yelena fires some sort of rope or something and catches Bob. And I absolutely love that. As soon as I saw that, I was like, I love that parallel. That is so good. And then he sneezes. It's brilliant. Bob is just probably my favorite character in this movie. I absolutely loved him. But this is where I want to start talking about the little things that hint at Bob being not who he presents himself as. Because in this compound, earlier on, he touched Yelena, he touched her hand, and we saw a backstory of her, like an incident from her past, her very first task, and she had a child killed. She had a child killed. We got the death of a child in a Marvel movie. Holy shit. You see, this is what I'm talking about. Double standards, guys. Sonic 3 and Thunderbolts, everyone is like, oh my god, they killed a child. Dude, that's so cool. It's interesting. Okay, maybe not Sonic 3, because we all knew that was going to happen. But this movie, everyone's like, oh, I respect it. And yet for Terrifier 3, everyone's like, oh my god, how dare they kill children? Ugh, these movies are disgusting. Fuck off. It's the same damn thing. But anyway, yeah, that was Yelena's dream, well, nightmare sequence, is just showing probably her most traumatic event. I believe that is what Sentry or Void is trying to do. And she has a child killed. And then at the top of this tower thing, he touches John. And this is probably the darkest one of them all, not because of the actual sequence we see. So we see him being a shitty father, and of course him shouting at his wife, which is interesting considering how sweet he was to her in Falcon the Winter Soldier. But you get this, and then once he sort of snaps out of it, you can see he was getting closer to the edge of that hole, implying that he was actually going to jump. And that's still, again, much like the Yelena jumping off the building thing earlier, this was much more direct and in your face of like, oh my god, he was actually going to, off himself because of that. That, I think, really just started to show that, well, we knew obviously Void was evil, but the things that this movie decided to tackle was, holy shit, it was pretty insane. I'm laughing about it now, but when you're actually watching it, you just go, oh my god, he was actually going to jump. That is ridiculous. That is dark for a Marvel movie. This is not the kind, like, a lot of Marvel movies are pretty tame. This is not the kind of Marvel movie to take Marvel movie. Oh my god. This is not the type of Marvel movie to take a kid to watch, I don't think. I think that this is more for teenagers and upwards, just because the things that are being tackled here are very serious, and pretty dark, because you had the death of a child, you had John Walker about to off himself, and just a lot of things that Bob's saying. Really, Bob is kind of it's one of the most relatable characters here. And of course, they escape the compound. Bob is captured, and then we get like the only thing that of Taskmaster's death that actually, like someone actually caring, or not even, well, I would say caring. And that is, while John is picking these stupid berries, Ghost is like, that woman back there, did you know her? And I honestly thought that they were talking about Val. I don't know why, but I mean, they literally mentioned it earlier. She was like, okay, we clearly all worked for Val before, so I don't know why I thought that. But anyway, Ghost is like, so did you know her? And yeah, Yelena is like, Yeah, she was the daughter, yada yada yada. She had a tough life. This should have been a much bigger thing. I understand everyone hated Taskmaster because, as I said, I only watched Black Widow in 2025. Back when the trailers for that movie were out in 2021, I was so excited because I never cared about Natasha. I'm sorry, I don't care about Black Widow. But I was only going to watch that movie because I was so intrigued by the idea of a character who is able to mimic other characters' fighting style. I'm like, that is such a cool idea. And then, once the negative reviews and stuff started coming in, I was like, okay, well, pointless. 2025, I watched it with very low expectations, and I was still somehow very disappointed. But yeah, I understand no one liked Taskmaster, and she was gonna die instantly. But I feel like Yelena should have been pissed at Ghost because obviously she knows that everything Taskmaster did wasn't of her own free will. She was forced to do it. So I feel like they really should have sort of leaned into that and had a bit of conflict there between Yelena and Ava. I think that really would have been great, honestly. But the scene after that, it had just had me dying, honestly. This is probably the funniest part of the movie, in my opinion. And that is when Red Guardian finds them somehow. I'm not going to question how. But he finds them and he's like, Yelena, it's me, your dad. It was fucking hilarious. I loved Yelena hiding behind the rock. I was like, oh my god, that is such a dad thing to do. Holy shit. That is just absolutely brilliant. I loved that scene. That was freaking hilarious, in my opinion. And this, of course, leads us to probably the most advertised action set piece here, and that is Bucky chasing down the Thunderbolts. And, this is where I kind of like to bring up the complaint of them showing too much for this movie. I really do think they could have kept things like this hidden because by the time the movie comes out, we already had seen most of the action because they show it in the trailer. Hell, they basically gave up the entire scene of them shooting at the military vehicles, and then Bucky coming in, taking the shotgun, boom, and then him grabbing the thing, taking that truck over, and then firing at the Thunderbolts and flipping the car. So we had already seen that entire sequence, and even for the rest of the movie, I feel like they definitely showed way too much. They should not have shown Void in the trailer, I don't think. They shouldn't even have hinted at Sentry. I think they should have just kept it as Bob, like how it is in the teaser trailer. Just show Bob. So, yeah, that is just like my minor complaint. But moving on to Bucky, I am quite happy that they sort of sidelined him here because we've had enough of Bucky. I'm not saying we've had enough as in I'm tired of him. I mean, like, compared to these guys, we have already had a lot of Bucky. So, I'm really happy because he has already had enough of a character arc, a lot of character change, to where he's in a comfortable spot now where we can focus on these characters. And here he comes in and, he's a congressman, which I find really strange because he killed JFK. But anyway, I don't care that it was the Winter Soldier. He's still, like, they would not elect him to be a congressman. But there's this subplot going. I say subplot. It is basically part of the main plot of the government trying to catch Val for all the illegal shit that she's doing. And Bucky is, of course, doing his own little thing, trying to get her assistant to turn on her. And this doesn't really go anywhere. Because by the end of the film, they all had so much dirt on her. But, well, we'll get to that, won't we? But yeah, Bucky is very much the mentor here. And I feel like Bucky does the same things with every single fight. Okay, if he's gonna win the fight, he's fucking badass. He's awesome. They make him so cool. Like, I haven't seen Terminator 2, but I've seen a lot of people bring up the whole Terminator moves that he does. Like with him grabbing the shotgun, flipping it and things like that on the bike. But yeah, it's either that or if he's going to lose the fight, the way to show how strong the other character that he's fighting is, they rip off his arm. Oh my god, I'm so tired of that. But yeah, Bucky comes in and is basically like the mentor. And I love how he just doesn't believe them. He's like, okay, right, there's this guy Bob and stuff like that. Okay, yeah, Sentry, yada yada yada. And then he then he gets the phone call and he's like, Bob, and they all just scream, Bob. That scene was just great because they were all like, see, I told you so. But this is where I think the movie really just shines because, as I said earlier, the movie's runtime isn't too long and it isn't too short because this is basically one plot because the two plot lines that are happening converge very quickly. That is everything to do with Val and her trying to evade the government and keep all her shady stuff going, and of course everything going on with the Thunderbolts. And they merge very quickly. And that brings us to the Watchtower, where we are met with Sentry. And I know a lot of people are saying that they sort of like they skipped a lot of Sentry and him training with his powers and stuff. And I'm just like, you people really just will complain over anything. Because if they showed him, like moving stuff around with his mind and things like that and flying and stuff like that, if they showed him practicing that, then people would have been like, okay, I think this went on a bit too long. The movie could have cut this out a bit. But now that they didn't show it, people are like, oh, I think they could have shown a bit. It's like, there's no praising, there's no, like, there's no helping Marvel fans. But yeah, I'm quite happy they didn't really show it. They showed a little bit of it. And I love that Bob, like, the main thing he does is underestimate himself. Because he really underestimates how powerful he is. And then you just see how much he changes with the scene when we meet him in the Watchtower. And holy shit, you get some. I'm going to be honest with you, this is my favorite scene of the movie. There is no competition. I absolutely love this fight sequence. The fact that it was all one continuous take was so freaking awesome, dude. I loved this fight. I was just sitting there that whole time, my eyes glued to the screen on the edge of my seat, going, this is so freaking cool. This is awesome. That's one of the best fights of like phase 5, easily. Even phase 4, to be honest, that was just so freaking cool. Just him just manhandling all of them. Even Ghost, where she's like teleporting around him. And then he just sticks his hand out and catches her. It's so awesome. And one thing that I loved here is that he didn't kill any, like, he wasn't trying to kill anyone. And that's what I love. Is yes, of course, he had, a confidence boost, shall we say, but he didn't, he was still like, what, they're my friends. I'm not going to kill them. They've done, they're not going to harm me or anything like that. They've done nothing. I loved that because even in the trailers and stuff, they showed him sending Red Guardian out the window. And we were like, okay, how the fuck is Red Guardian going to survive that? We know he's in Doomsday, but how is he going to survive? But then, of course, the scene continues on and Sentry just pulls him back into the tower. Man, that fight was just so cool. And the way they just bugger off, they just run away. Which, fair enough, you're not going to win against Superman. That is so awesome. But yeah, that was just such an amazing fight sequence. I was really enjoying that one take. And I'm a huge sucker for one takes, Even in Sinners, you got quite a few of them. And, of course, I did mention certain things that people did not like, with that movie. And I got a lot of death threats. I actually removed I removed the comments. I'm not one to remove negative comments, but the things that people were saying just because there were certain things I didn't like. One person got pissed at me just because I didn't remember the character's name. I was like, dude, come on, relax, chill. But yeah, so I loved this one take here. I thought that it was brilliant. And then you get one of my favorite bits of dialogue here because it is just so freaking clever. Where Sentry is obviously being ordered around by Val, and he's like, why should a god have to listen to anyone anyway? And she's like, I think you're throwing around the word god a bit too easily, or whatever she says. And he's like, well, you're the one that said I'm stronger than all the Avengers combined. and that consists of at least one god. And I just sat there, I was like, dude, Sentry is fucking awesome. He's awesome. He's smart though. He's speaking facts. So there was that. And then my second favorite bit of dialogue is actually just after that, when Yelena just rips into all of them, where Ava said something and Yelena is like, don't, Ava, sharp, you're not even a good person. You're not a hero and things like that. I was like, oh, come on, Yelena. And then she turns to John and John is like, oh, it's my turn now. And that's the part that I loved, because that is so something that I would say. If someone is like just scream at everyone and they look at me, I'm like, oh, it's my turn now. That's so relatable. And obviously, yes, that was funny, but then they reverse Marvel it, because a lot of the times with Marvel they would have like a serious line and then immediately followed up by a joke. Here it was the opposite. The joke came, then the serious line, because John is like, "Oh, it's my turn now," and she says, "No, you already know you're a piece of shit. So does your wife. That's why she left you." And, oh my god, the Yelena just did not hold back here, and it was ridiculous. It really, really was it was a great scene. It really, really was. I'm not denying that in any way. And this is where the team kind of splits up for a bit. And we get, probably the most, actually, maybe second most emotional scene of the film. And that's when Red Guardian I say Red Guardian, Alexei is talking to Yelena and just sort of building up her confidence again. That whole scene was just fantastic. I loved the dialogue. I loved the music, which, by the way, the music for this film was freaking amazing. And just this whole sequence of him talking to her was really, really good. And then we get some awesome stuff, because Sentry is neutralized, but then when they go to clean up the body, there is no body. And this is when Void is now introduced. And Void has some awesome scenes. And the guy next to me, when Void turned the first guy into a shadow, the dude next to me just like sprung up. He just went, and then like he like leaned all the way forward at the edge of his seat, because he clearly didn't watch any trailers and stuff. So lucky guy. But I don't have that privilege. If I don't watch the trailer, whatever is in the trailer is gonna get spoiled for me anyway. So I might as well watch the trailers. And yeah, you just saw him like, I saw him just like spring forward. But yeah, Void is creepy as hell. Like this is one of the many things in this movie that a child should not see, because this was fucking creepy. Because Void is just all black, no shadow, no lighting, nothing, and you just see his white eyes. That is so goddamn scary. And as terrifying as that is, this is when you get, it's probably the most heartwarming scene from Marvel in a long time, and that is all of them saving individual people. I have said this so many times, and I know it's not just me, it's so many other people who've said this. With superhero movies, you need to have them actually save people. Not save everyone, save individual people. Seeing all of them go out of their way, like Red Guardian, grabbing a bunch of people and taking them to a building. Yelena, like pushing people out of the way. Ghost, obviously pushing someone out of the way from the falling rocks. John lifting a rock. Well, not even a rock. It was like a freaking wall. There was that. But then the one that got me, like I hadn't gasped this loudly, and you know what it is, when Red Guardian goes and shields a little girl from a falling rock, and it obviously breaks when it hits him. He just looks at her and is like, "Don't worry, little one, we're gonna get you back to your family." And then she just turns into a shadow. Dude, I haven't gasped so loudly with a movie in so long. I think actually ever. I don't like. I literally went, and you just heard everyone in the cinema as well just gasp. And holy shit! The only thing I can compare to, as far as Marvel things go, is my reaction I had when Daredevil Born Again, spoilers, but I mean it's been out for a while now, is when they kill White Tiger in episode 3. because it is such an abrupt scene, and I was fully like, they got me hook, line, and sinker with that scene. I did not think for 1 second that that was a trap, and he just gets immediately shot in the head. And I gasped so loudly there, and that is exactly what happened here when this little girl was voided, because a lot was like, holy shit, they just killed another child. Because obviously we didn't know if these people were actually dead. We just didn't know what happened to them, so that was freaking amazing. Like, I would love to watch this movie again. Just like, I'll watch it just for that scene, because I would love to hear other people's reactions to when that happens. That is just such a freaking cruel scene, him being like, don't worry, we're gonna get you back. Doof. Holy shit. I still can't get over that, by the way. And then we get another scene. Yes, we get another scene. We After that, they are obviously trying to run away, all the Thunderbolts, and Yelena just walks right in. She walks right into the void, the shadow. And this scene, honestly, it could be interpreted several ways. She didn't know, you could interpret it as, okay, she knows that there's a way to get Bob back and stop this. That's why she did it. Or there's the other way of doing it, of interpreting it, where she went in not knowing if she was actually going to come back. She doesn't know what happened to these people. She just went in not knowing if she was going to die or not, meaning that she didn't care. But I don't know. I kind of see it as like, she knows there's a way to get Bob back, but she's willing to sacrifice herself for others. I don't think that she would have done it just because she wants to die. But also, Red Guardian's reaction in that scene was killing me. That was really, really good, and I like the fact that it was Ghost to kind of be like, look, there's a chance that we can get her back. Speaking of which, I love that all the Thunderbolts kind of get more or less equal screen time, because there's been a lot of movies in recent years, Godzilla and Kong the New Empire mainly, as far as my opinion goes, because fuck that movie, where they always focus on, like, there's always the characters who are neglected, or character that is neglected. Godzilla and Kong the New Empire is very much a Kong movie that Godzilla is just shoehorned into, just so that they can make more money from having his name in the title. Thunderbolts is not that. I thought even with Bucky here, they were going to be biased and give Bucky more screen time. No, it's actually the opposite. They did the best thing they could have, which is sideline Bucky and put the main characters, the focus. Because while, yes, Ghost doesn't get as much, development and stuff as Yelena and John, I think that they were more or less equal screen time. So I just absolutely loved that they sort of focused on each Thunderbolt more or less equally. So thank you for that. I will now move on. This is probably one of the best scenes of the movie, which is, yes, Yelena goes and finds Bob, and all her friends went in with her, because they also didn't know if they were going to make it back. And I'll be honest, it would have been really cool to see Red Guardian's trauma, because we've seen Ghosts, we've seen John's, Ghosts, we watched the movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp. We saw Yelena's earlier. I would have loved to have seen Red Guardians. But there was that, and then they find Void. And Void is just sitting in the lab and just destroys all of them. And he's about to, take over Bob as well, meaning that Bob would have been completely gone. No Bob, no Sentry. It just would have been Void. And you get, this is, in my opinion, the most emotional scene of the movie, because they, like, Bob is obviously just punching and punching and punching Sentry, which really reminded me of No Way Home. Like when he's Peter is just punching Green Goblin and he's just laughing. But all the Thunderbolts break free and they just go and they hug Bob, and they're like, look, we're here for you. They hug him, they show him that they care about him. And that's what I found so refreshing with this villain, is a lot of the MCU villains are really shit, let's be honest. Especially after Endgame, there's some really bad ones. The only good ones that I can think of, like, really, really good. Green Goblin, okay, I'm not going to count Green Goblin. High Evolutionary, Void, 23, 22, Namor, and that is it. Three good MCU villains. And that is it. But Void, they just did such a great job with using him in a metaphorical sense because he represented that darkness, which is, that not the darkness, but like the suicidal thoughts, that feeling that you are not worth anything, that feeling that you don't matter. That's what Void represented because, Bob is obviously how everyone feels, and then Void is just that darkness that is yeah, you should do it. I'm not doing a very good job at explaining it, but I hope you get the idea of what I'm trying to say. But I just loved that, how they used Bob and Void to represent what goes on in a person's head who has these kind of thoughts. And I thought that it was fantastic that, of course, there was no way that the Thunderbolts could win this fight. We have such a shitty team as far as superpowers go because you have three super soldiers, one assassin, and then, at least Ghost has powers, but even then, it's very limited. So I like that it was a mental battle, and Bob's friends were the ones who sort of helped him get through it. And again, very representative of what is, what a person who is suicidal goes through in real life. You need your friends to support you and get through it. And I love that. Again, very serious, real topics, relatable topics that they are discussing in this movie. Something that Marvel has really not done in a very, very long time. The closest things that we got were like Wolverine in Deadpool and Wolverine and Star-Lord in the beginning. Literally one scene of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So, yeah. They hug Bob, they hug him, they suppress the Void. He's not gone, obviously. Those sorts of things don't just go away. They don't just, vanish. So Bob has had his memory wiped again. And that's the thing with Bob is that, it wasn't a happy ending. It wasn't like, oh, yeah, we saved the day, everything's perfect. No. There is still the chance that Void could come back. And I feel like that is something that's going to, play a part in Avengers Doomsday, which I will mention later on, provided I don't forget it. But now that, they beat Void, they return to the normal world, which, by the way, I would just like to add that Florence Pugh jumping through all those rooms and stuff, that was actually practical. That wasn't CGI, so that is freaking awesome. But, everything returns to normal, and they start walking towards Val. And Red Gun is like, I'm going to kill that woman. And I love that. And then she tricks them into coming out into the public where they are hailed as heroes, which is exactly what, especially Yelena wanted. And I think that honestly, her and John, mainly John actually, are the people that needed this the most. They needed this the most. So yeah, there was that. But now this is where I sort of have an issue with the ending. Because, Yelena does say, we own you now to Val. Because, of course, they could at any point reveal what she really is. So that's kind of what made the whole Bucky thing pointless, of him just trying to get her arrested and stuff. But, let's be honest, no one expected Val to be arrested. I also feel like before I start complaining about the ending, I feel like I should just add that I hate Val. And not in a sense that, oh yeah, she's meant to be not likable. She's meant to be unfunny and annoying. I just don't care about her character. She is not interesting to me at all. I don't give a shit about her. She's like Amanda Waller, except more annoying. But I just don't like her character. I'm sorry. And I haven't actually met anyone that does like her character. I feel like if you like the character, you only say that because you like the actress. I refuse to believe that anyone out there actually likes Val. And yeah, she's just a sickening character, to be honest with you. But yeah, so you have this scene, and then Val says, meet the new Avengers. Now, this is what I'm going to say. I feel like, this is just my personal opinion, do not attack me, please. As much as people hate the movie I'm about to talk about, I feel like, just, how I feel right now, I feel like they should have pulled a Fantastic Four 2015 with the ending. And no, not the it's fantastic. Say that again? Not that part. I'm talking about where they are about to say the name, but then it's revealed afterwards. And, a better example is, well, one that my friend brought up is, Cap Age of Ultron, where he's like, Avengers, and then it cuts to, like Age of Ultron or whatever it is, the credits start. So I feel like here, it should have ended with Val going like, everyone meet, and then it changes, like the title card pops up Thunderbolts, and then it changes to the New Avengers because, you know, they are the New Avengers. But I mean, that's just my opinion. I could very easily. I'm not saying it's a bad ending. I'm just saying that's something I would have liked to have seen. But yeah, that is obviously what the asterisk stands for, and I was so happy we got the answer to it. Obviously, a lot of us expected the title change. I just think that a lot of us expected it to be something like Dark Avengers. I genuinely thought it was going to be Dark Avengers, and I was pretty upset because I'm like, none of these characters are evil. So, like, it doesn't really make sense for it to be Dark Avengers, but New Avengers is perfectly fine, honestly. I'm also loving the logo. I think the logo looks fantastic. I love that it's yellow, but again, this should have been the end of Phase 4. So, I will just say, once I'm done talking about the movie, I will talk about how this plays into the future of the MCU, but also how I think this should have gone. I would just also like to add that for anyone who hasn't seen the movie this weekend, they will probably have it spoiled because they are already advertising this movie as the new Avengers. This is an actual billboard. This isn't fake. This is real. It's already being advertised as the new Avengers. So the question is, when this movie gets released onto Disney Plus, will it be titled Thunderbolts or will it be titled The New Avengers? Because I don't know. I honestly, I wouldn't put it past Marvel to put The New Avengers, but I feel like they would probably put Thunderbolts. But I don't know, man. Who freaking knows? So yeah, the movie ends. We get Thunderbolts, and then it changes to The New Avengers, and that was really cool. And then we get a mid-credit scene, which is really kind of a joke, and it's Red Guardian taking the freaking cereal box or whatever it was, and literally putting his face next to it, to the woman in the aisle, and he's like, huh? It's me on the box. And she just leaves it. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. And of course, I've seen all the posters for this movie. This movie is like allergic to bad posters. All the posters are freaking amazing. And as soon as I saw that cereal box, I was like, wait, they just what they just took the Thunderbolts poster and put New Avengers on it. That is so good. But the end credits scene is what everyone has been ranting and raving about, which I will be honest, people are definitely overdoing it with this. They are acting like it is the most mind-blowing thing in the world, when really it's not. This is what a post-credit scene fucking hell. This is what a post-credit scene should be. It takes place 14 months after the movie, and I'll be honest, I still find it bullshit that freaking what's his name, John Walker, hasn't gotten a new shield. I find that to be really stupid. Which, by the way, I would just like to ask how he got this shield because it seems to do the same thing as Cap's shield. Who freaking knows? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Because you establish, okay, he got a new shield in this movie, but then why after over a year does he not have another one? So that doesn't make sense. You got Ghost rocking a new bob, and not Bob as in Bob Reynolds. She's still hot as hell. She's freaking stunning. And I kind of just spent half the movie looking at her, to be honest, being like, damn, Hannah John Kamen is gorgeous. But anyway, you had Bucky who's rocking a new look, and this scene was actually directed by the Russo brothers. This was only filmed 4 weeks before the movie's release, and here I was really curious as to what they were going to do. But this scene is actually quite long. I believe it's almost 3 minutes long. It's like 2 minutes 57 seconds or something like that. But I love how the Red Guardian is just the hype man, like to have someone like that in real life is just so freaking cool. Because here we learn that Sam is not happy with Bucky, which, by the way, Bucky really, realistically should be standing with Sam. There's no reason for him to help this random group of nobodies. But, I mean, I'm going against exactly what the movie's saying, but you know what I mean. Um, Bucky has obviously him and Sam are not on good speaking terms because Sam has copyrighted he's copyright claimed the name Avengers. So Red Guardian made them all suits with Avengers with a Z. I love him. I love him so much. But then they get a thing from space, and I don't know what it was gonna be. And of course, it is the rocket ship for the Fantastic Four, baby. And holy shit, I was very happy with this because there's a lot of post-credit scenes from Phase 4 and 5 which have led nowhere, will never lead anywhere. I mean, Harry Styles, that whole thing with Harry Styles was bullshit. Why the fuck was Harry Styles there? No one cares about him. I'm joking. I'm joking. It's a joke. It's a joke, man. But genuinely, no one gives a shit that Harry Styles is in the MCU. No one cares. Do you know why? Because he serves no purpose. You brought him in as Thanos' brother, and yet he just looks like Harry Styles in real life. What bullshit is this? So there was that. That's one post-credit scene that I know a lot of people bring up, because that meant nothing. That meant nothing. Quantumania, even though they were like, okay, clearly we're going towards Kang Dynasty, still now that means nothing. Here, this is what I want from a post-credit scene. A post-credit scene which teases the next movie. That is what I love about it. And I know people are gonna bring up like Iron Man or the Incredible Hulk, being like, well, those post-credit scenes didn't, they weren't connected to the next movie. No, but most of the MCU was, like, a fair amount of them had post-credit scenes which led to the next project or maybe the project after that. You shouldn't be teasing something like 4 years in the future, 5 years in the future. Like, come on. So, yeah, I'm very, very happy that the tease for the next movie, it was the post-credit scene here. And yes, obviously a lot of us pieced together that the Fantastic Four were going to abandon their universe because Galactus is just going to destroy that Earth. So the movie kind of just spoiled that because it was kind of just a theory to begin with. Now the movie just straight up spoiled that ending, but it's fine. And this is where I want to get into the credits of this movie, because a lot of people were saying, do not pay attention to the credits of this movie because it will spoil the post-credits scene. And I was very confused by this until after I watched the movie and I went on the internet. And this is where I understood why people were complaining. Is they were saying, oh, the Fantastic Four theme was credited in the credits. When I saw that, I didn't think anything of it because I know not everyone had this, but the new IMAX intro. I've been going to the movies my entire life. It's always been the same IMAX intro. I have never, ever seen a different one. And my mind was blown before this movie started, and I saw a Fantastic Four style countdown with the IMAX things. I was so shocked, and I even brought it up with my friends. I was like, dude, this countdown, it's Fantastic Four inspired. And of course, when the four popped up, they were like, Fantastic Four. It was brilliant. But yeah, that's why I didn't think of anything when I saw the Fantastic Four theme be credited. Because I was like, okay, obviously that's for the IMAX intro. But no, for the people who didn't have that IMAX intro, they were obviously like, well, why the fuck would you show that? Obviously it's going to be a Fantastic Four tease. So yeah, for me, I was still in the mindset, because I had the IMAX intro and thought that music credit was for that. I honestly thought that this was going to be some sort of Doomsday connection. I mean, it is still a Doomsday connection, but I just loved this post-credit scene. I think it's fantastic. Although I will be honest, I do think they should have kept that credit till after the post-credit scene. And it, of course, ends with saying the new Avengers and Bob will return. I love that. I just love how much they say Bob's name in this movie. But yeah, there was that. But now let's start talking about the connections to Avengers Doomsday. Starting off with Void. Now, this is what I've seen a lot of people bring up, is how we're going to get the backstory for Doctor Doom, RDJ's Doctor Doom. And that is just that Void is going to touch him. Void will like punch him or just touch him, whatever, and then we will see the backstory of him. And I'm gonna be honest, I really, really hope that we see his mother, we see Mephisto, we see Hell, and how he gets burnt and all that. I really, really hope we see all that. So yeah, that is probably gonna be Sentry / Void's purpose in Avengers Doomsday, and I just hope they don't kill him. I really hope they don't kill him, because they've made him so powerful and such a likable character that it would be the classic, like how I mentioned earlier with Bucky, that like they always have the like to show how strong his opponent is. They just rip off his arm. I don't want them just to show how powerful Doctor Doom is, to have him just instantly kill Sentry. Please don't. So now let's just round up the teams that we have for Avengers Doomsday. So we have the Avengers, which I don't know who Sam is going to recruit, to be honest, because it'll be him, it'll be Joaquin, it'll probably be Thor. I assume Chris Hemsworth's Thor, maybe Benedict Cumberbatch, maybe Doctor Strange. I mean, he's not confirmed as far as we know so far. M'Baku will probably be there. Black Panther will probably be there. All these characters. Then you will have the new Avengers, which of course is this team of Thunderbolts and Bob. And then you will have the X-Men, of course, the OG X-Men. And then you will also have the Fantastic Four. So you have a lot of Marvel teams here, and I think that this is going to be absolutely awesome. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up my review on the new Avengers. And wow, I was so happy with this movie. It is definitely, old Marvel, but I do think that people are really overdoing it with this reaction, going, oh yeah, this is the best Marvel movie since Endgame. Oh, this is like a top 10 MCU movie of all time. This is amazing. I love these characters. This is perfect. All of this. When, guys, let's be honest with ourselves. Of course, everyone is entitled to their opinion, and I could 100% understand why this, is a lot of people's favorite film since Endgame, since, they tackle a lot of serious topics and things like that, and even use the villain to represent that. But I just don't see any way how this is better than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That is still, in my opinion, the movie to beat. As far as the MCU goes right now, that is still my favorite movie out of all of the MCU. But again, that's just my opinion. And I would love to hear yours. I would love to hear your opinion on this movie. Do you think people were overreacting about it? Do you think this movie was just amazing as it was? And most importantly, I would love to know how you feel about this team and the themes that they were tackling here. I would just love to hear that. And also, just one little side note is that there's a lot of shots and stuff in the trailers that were not in this movie. So yeah, just one last little note. But yeah, please guys, let me know your thoughts on Thunderbolts, aka the new Avengers. Did you enjoy this movie? Did you not like it? Just let me know. Everything, let me know down in the comment section below. And if you did enjoy this video, then please leave a like, subscribe, and goodbye. We are the Thunderbolts!